G'day everyone, thought I'd just do this little video because I'm having a lot of trouble finding online videos or tutorials on how to change the gearbox fluid for my XTrail. Now mine's a 2012 T31 2-litre turbo diesel manual gearbox. Now the reason for me doing the oil change is I'm really not sure when it was last done, but I am noticing that going from first to second, I'm getting a crunching sound. It's actually almost like I'm missing the gear. There's the occasional grind, but winter's just decided to kick in, and we've had a couple of really cold mornings, and the problem has exaggerated itself even worse. So I think it's definitely time to give this thing an oil change. Now, gearbox fluid change. Now, one thing that did become very evident straight away is the location of the filler plug. It's very difficult to get to. I've tried taking the front left wheel off and removing some of the inner plastic guards. You won't get to it from there, so save yourself the trouble. I've already gone to it. It's very difficult to get to. Now, basically, I'll try and focus in on it, and I'm hoping that you'll be able to get an idea of where it is. But if you slip down, there's a hex head, and she'll come in and out of focus. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to get to. There we go. So she's in about the middle of the screen. Now you will get to it with a 10mm hex drive and a few extension bars, and like I said, I've already gone to all this trouble. Just bite the bullet, go out and buy yourself one, because it's very difficult to get to. There are instructions or other tutorials or people mentioning that you can take the airbox out or that, but even still I can't see any way of getting to it without the extensions. Okay, before you start this job, I highly recommend to make sure you get all your things together to start with. You're going to need some extension bars. You're going to need a 10mm hex drive and a ratchet. Now, from start to finish, you're going to need a minimum of 540mm. That's right, just a little over half a metre, but you're going to find out why. The nut, or the filler nut, is in a mongrel spot, but with the extensions you can actually get to it quite easily. You're going to need some replacement washers. Yeah, some people say reuse the ones you've got, but for what it's worth. Now, I've got a few different washers here, only because there'll be other videos on this, but I also intend to do my transfer case and my diff. But just for the moment, this video is about the gearbox. So you will also need, I've got about 3 meters of hose, which I'll be cutting back, but your hose should be something with no larger outer diameter of 15mm, or you're going to have trouble getting it inside the filler hole, and a couple of connectors up to a funnel. This is by far the easiest way to fill your gearbox. I've watched a lot of people climb under there with bottles that have the hoses attached to them, and this is, I can assure you, you'll see this is the easiest way to do it. Now, for the gearbox, I decided I've gone with a Penrite 7585. This is what was recommended by Penrite for my XTrail. But you use whatever brand. From what I understand, there's 2 litres of oil in there. So this one here is 2.5 litres. You will need a 10mm Allen key, or you can reuse your hex drive for the drain plug. For my transfer case, I've gone a Penrite brand. So I'll be using this for the transfer case and for the diff oil, the rear diff. It's an 8090 and again recommended by Penrite for my XTrail. Now this bottle's a litre. A little bit of conflicting information on how much each takes. One book I read said the Diff takes half a litre and the transmission takes half a litre. Another book I read said one took 0.4 of a litre, the other said 0.6. So either way, a litre should fill it. And I hope I haven't just gotten it too close where I'm going to be a couple of mils short, but we'll see how we go. I raced down to Bunnings. Unfortunately, it was about $11. A little hex driver M10. I got the longer version because I wasn't sure how many extensions I could get joined together to get to it, but for $11, look, buy it, you'll use it again and again and again. Now, like I said, I've got my driver and a few extension bars. Currently, she's 540 mils long. Now, to give you an idea, it does look a little bit of an overkill, but I'm about to place it on the car and show you what sort of reach you need to get to this nut. Now it might sound and look like it's difficult, but it actually hasn't been so far. One little bit of trouble I did have when taking the original the filler plug out was with all my extension bars, I still couldn't get a straight connection to it. And what I did find was, I believe the Allen key was on a bit of an angle and started slipping. So the last thing you want to do is strip out that. So just for those not right up on mechanics or things, what I found was by putting the Allen key into the actual filler plug first by hand, then what I was able to do was, for the extension, instead of being able to click it right in, I was able to at least hold it in place on a bit of an angle and do the twist, because yeah, as I said, I couldn't get a dead straight connection. It was on a slight angle, but either way, still managed to crack it and open it. Okay, this is how far 540 mils of extensions will get you. Just far enough to get a ratchet onto the top of it and give her a turn. So I'm about to crack her in a second. Okay, that's the little filler plug. Mongrel thing to get out, but highly recommend you get this thing out first before you drain your fluid. There's nothing worse than draining your fluid and then working out you can't get to this. If I'd have done it that way, there's no way I could have got down to Bunnings to get the right tool. So there you go. And as mentioned before, both washers are identical. I'm going to reuse one of them on the top, on the filler, and I'll be using a new one on the drain. Okay, I'm underneath the car. Now, for those familiar, that's your 8mm square drive for your engine oil pan, your drain. So basically, your gearbox is connected to the motor, and that is your gearbox drain. And that'd be right, she goes out of focus. Again, it's another 10mm hex nut. So I'm about to crack him with the drive and see how we go. Oil pan's ready. Okay, I've just cracked her. Immediately she started to show some fluid. I'll just undo her again, but I'll get the oil pan in the way. Oh, it's going to drop all over my hand, but yes, it happens. Now, luckily for me, or if we call it luckily, I don't know, I had to do a couple of trips to Bunnings, because yes, I didn't get prepared. Gee, that oil doesn't look too bad. Just a little bit of a worry, because I am getting a crunching in my gears, but not to say its viscosity hasn't changed that much where it's not doing the job it should. We'll find out. I'm going to leave it drain for a while, get every last little drop out of it. Again, I noticed as I took the washer off, took the nut off, there's another washer on here. And yeah, that's right, when I was at the Nissan dealers, they told me there was only one washer. So I'm going to use the new washer on the drain rather than the fill, because the fill's obviously it's not in liquid the whole time and it's above the liquid level. Educated guess is it should be okay with the reused washer, but I'll be definitely using a new one on the drain. Here's just a little bit of a comparison. That's the clear oil I'm about to put into the car, and that's what I've just pulled out of it. Huge difference. So I'm hoping that when I take it for a first drive, I'm going to notice the difference, because like I said, she was really starting to crunch into second gear, and sometimes she'd, as if I'd missed the gear, she'd grind. So it'd be interesting. Just as a little check before I go and start putting everything all back together, I just wanted to make sure that what I took out of it is what I'm putting back into it. Now, here's a 2-litre container of juice, an old one. So I've pretty much filled this to the brim, and I've still got, I wouldn't say half a litre, but I've still got a fair amount in there. So I'm starting to think maybe, well, the book says 2 litres, but I'm going to go more for, I think I'm going to put 2.5 in there. I'm thinking some of this oil would have disappeared over time. The oil level would have slowly dropped in the car, but yeah, it's a bit hard to work out. I reckon there's probably about half a litre. So yeah, I think I'm going to put a little bit more in than what the book was saying. Again, I can't get an accurate. I've got different information as to how much it takes. So and I don't think a little bit more will hurt it. Not like engine oil. Okay. Okay. She's dripping a little bit. What I did was because I've got 2.5 litres of oil, I just shoved about 100 ml down her at the moment, just to give anything in there a little bit of a flush out. I'm hoping it did. So I've put a new washer on. Now I'm going to just try and get in there. And God, it's hard to do it while holding a camera. Okay, alright, I've just put the new washer and the nut back in place. I'm just going to move the oil drum out of the way, and of course it's going to splash a little bit. Give the whole thing a wipe down with the kids' towel. That's better. Okay, give the whole thing a wipe down with the kids' towel, and now just torque her up. And I can't find anything to tell me what torque setting it should be, so I'm just going to call it tight. Don't know if you can see or not, but we've now got a clear hose shoved into the filler tube, into the filler hole, and clear tube goes up to a funnel. I can tell you, this is the easiest way to fill it. It's going to be a bit slow because, like I said, you can get up to about a 15mm outer diameter hose. Yeah, I got a, I think mine's got a an 8mm, so it's going to take a bit longer, and I've had to get a couple of connections to make it fit onto the funnel. But if you do your homework properly, take your funnel down to, now go to Clark Rubber. You go to Bunnings, you're going to pay $19 for a flaming 10 metre long piece, which you don't need. I think I got this from Clark Rubber for $5. Actually, I've had to cut about 3 metres off it. Sorry, about 2 metres off it. So, but this is by far the easiest way to put the oil back into your gearbox. And remember to do your nut back up at the end before you do this, or you'll be just draining the whole lot through. Now, everything I've read says she takes 2 litres, so a little bit of it's a bit hard to see it at the moment, but there's a little clear slot down the side of the bottle. So it's going to take a while, but it doesn't matter. I'm not in a great rush, and eventually there'll be 2 litres in there. Now remember, if you've got a hose that's that has a very large diameter, and let's say that you only just managed to get it in, you may have to slow down doing this bit to allow air to come back out. So what I'm going to do is just check to make sure that I'm not spilling any out of the hole, and it doesn't look like I am. So far it's looking good. Oh, time to put some more in. So I'm going to keep going until I've got 2 litres of oil in there. Okay, she's still filling. What I think is fantastic is still I've not spilt a single drop. I haven't had to worry about trying to get in there to clean it up, or this tube and funnel setup is awesome. Saved a hell of a lot of time, I can tell you, and pain. Oh, better fill her up again. Okay, here we go with the transfer case now. Now I did a lot of reading into it because there's not a great deal of info. There are so many different types of transfer cases, it's not funny. So I'm going to show a little picture later on the computer, but for the Australian Nissan XTrail T31 diesel 6-speed manual, your actual filler point is on the driver's side, and to get to it you need to take off your driver's side wheel, and you'll find your filler point smack bang now up there. It's a 10mm drive socket smack bang in the middle of them. Sort of a bit of a mongrel to get to now that you know where it is. It won't be too hard. Now again, I think we're going to have to use funnel hose to fill this thing, because it looks like it's a little bit of a mongrel of a spot, but it only takes half a litre. So alright, here we go. So always locate your filler first. What we're going to do is we're going to crack it using a load of using the drive socket and the extension pieces. So the first thing we'll do, obviously, crack that piece there. Okay. Now, funny you should say, again, 540 mils of extension bars will get you exactly where you need to be to crack this thing. So I'm going to put one hand down so I can do this. Okay, so I've managed to crack it out of the way. First thing I'm going to do is remove it completely, just to make sure that I can get access to refill it. I'm about to climb underneath the car. I'm on the driver's side. Now, your drain plug for your transfer is you see that you got a 10mm and you got this larger one. Okay, do not touch the larger one. Why? I don't know. But I've been told the larger one is an adjustment for the gears, and your smaller one is definitely just for the oil. So, yeah, leave your larger one alone. So I'm about to crack it, and I'd say there's going to be a washer there as well. Again, I've got my oil bucket ready, so we'll give her a shot. So just trying to work out how to give you a bit of an idea of where this is placed. When lying under the car looking at your oil pan. Yeah, so you'll see the two of them together. So again, don't touch the larger one. Okay, I cracked it, and I'm just letting it drain out now. Murphy's Law says, yes, there's always going to be another component of the car underneath it, so she got covered in oil. One thing I will say is I'm not real happy with the colour of it. I don't know what colour it's supposed to be, but it did look a lot black. So maybe a good time to be changing it. Something I might mention at this stage. I've just painted my transfer case filler and drain plug yellow. This might sound a bit weird, but I had no choice. I took this to a mechanic originally and asked, because I'd just run out of time, and asked if he could do the transfer case, the gearbox oil and the diff, and he was unable to locate the filler points for the transfer and the gearbox. In fact, he was about to remove that dirty great big nut that you're not supposed to remove, and he was telling me that's the fill point. So just for future, I've painted the transfer case fill and drains yellow, and I've done the gearbox white. So the diff's pretty self-explanatory, but I'm sorry guys, I'm going to paint them red. Okay. Now just thought I'd let you know I've painted the transfer case filler and drain yellow to keep them separate from the filler and drain on the gearbox, which is now white. But the set of gaskets I've got, I got these from Nissan. Two of them are supposed to be the same size, the third one's supposed to be a different size. Honest, I've put them together, I cannot tell the difference. They are just as thick as each other. Sorry, I've compared them with a micrometer. There seems to be no difference. They're both as thick as each other. They both have the same ID and both have the same OD. So I've got no idea why they got different numbers, and yeah, so all right, about to put it all back together. All right, as you can see, back under the car again. She's leaked about enough, and I'll give her a bit of a wipe now. I'll put the plug back in, and again, just like the other one, they gave me one plug, even though the drain has they gave me one washer. Even though the drain has a washer and the fill has a washer, they've given me one. So again, I'll put the new one on the drain and the older one on the fill, and give her all a bit of a clean up. All right, she's put back in. I've painted it yellow, got it stands out, and like I said, don't touch the other one that's next to it. So that's the drain. Just a little bit of a health check before I fill her up. Again, I mentioned I had two conflicting differences. One book told me that the transfer case took 400 mils, the other said 600 mils. So look, I've drained the whole thing right out, other than a little bit of leftover. I've got a bit of a belief the transfer case in mine takes 400 mils. Now, to give you a bit of an idea of the colour, it's very hard to do a comparison, because the new one from, which is my Penrite, is actually a greenish colour. So I can't tell what colour this one here was before, other than the fact it stinks. It's got a very, very strong smell to it, and it's definitely not a green colour. So look, either way, I'm about to fill her up. Now I'll be using the old trusty funnel hose. because I can tell you with my patented Oki strap retention system, but again, it's a funnel with a bit of hose that feeds down into the motor and comes out. Basically, I've got it coming out from up the top and straight into the filler hose. Easy way to work out another short tail sign of where it is there's my power steering hoses. So let's see how she goes. I've flicked it up over the top of 2 nuts, just so the hose has a bit of a downwards on it. And I'd hate to be filling it and having half of it running back on the hose itself and coming out of the hole. So it'll be interesting. I'm going to put 400. I'm going to go for 4 to 450 mils at the most. And the car's on slight angle as well, which I noticed. I think it was slightly overfilled, but we'll see how she goes. Okay, I fill her up and then I just do it in lots of little bursts. You'll see her empty out in a second. Yeah. So, and the whole time I keep checking just to make sure that she's all going in and she's not spilling out. But so far, haven't spilled a drop. Very happy. Okay, about to put the plug back in. So I've managed to fill her up completely and not lose a drop of oil. So very happy with that. About to pop the plug in now. I'll come back. Now again, the yellow really does help for identification for next time, and for those of you who are just having trouble for the first time, that's a little plug. So I'm about to tighten it right up now with the 10mm hex bit. Okay, it's time to do the diff. So this bottom connection that the bottom plug that you can see, that is your drain. So I'm going to undo him. I'm going to paint him red before I put it back in. So that's your drain. Your fill is a bit harder to see, but if you look through the centre, you'll see your fill right through the centre of the hole. So a bit harder to get to. Again, I would be using my little method of a funnel and a hose again to get the fluid into it. So what we're going to do first, I'm going to crack the top one and I'm going to crack the bottom one just to make sure that they both move freely. Okie doke. Now, out of all of them, okay, I've just cracked them both, but I will say, out of all of them, the diff was well and truly the hardest to crack. So I'm undoing her and hopefully she'll flow. And that's not real good because that's nice and clean. Oh, that is good, but it's very not much different to what I'm about to put into it. So I'll let it drain out for a little while. Again, like I said before, we'll do a health check and see if what we've pulled out of her is about what we're about to put into her. She's very clear, this one. So it's possible the diff's in a very good condition internally. Let's see if I can get it to focus again, you rotten thing. But yeah, mate, that oil is almost transparent. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's looking okay. So, all right. I think that might be a magnet that's a part of its setup. So I'm going to give her a bit of a wipe and we'll find out. But I'll get the other one out while we're here. Well, might have to do that from under the car. While she's sitting there draining, and it's draining very slowly into the oil pan, something I did not expect was to actually find that the bottom diff plug has a magnetic a magnet in it. Now, knowing this, if I was to do this whole job again, so the gearbox, the transfer case and the diff, I'd go to Nissan personally and I'd be buying these units here. You want to do everything you can to keep metal out of your components. So why they only put one on the diff and not one on the gearbox or the transfer case, I don't know. Whether it's a cost thing or not, I don't know, but I've given this a good clean. It did feel clean. It didn't feel like it was gritty. So yeah, very happy there. But again, I'm going to paint these both red, just in case I come across the same mechanic that I came across when I initially took the car in. Okay, time to put the whole thing back together. About to put the new washer on the sun plug. Again, magnetic version, and I've painted it red. Hopefully that should stand out to the next mechanic. So, and yeah. Alright, she's time to refill the diff. Now, I've already put the drain back in. Now we're about to fill her. So, yep, I've gone for the old trusty funnel hose again. She's fed through the hole and up through various body cavity and parts, but she makes it to the outside. So I believe about 550, maybe 600 mils says she's full. So what I have done, but is with the tube, I've pushed it down towards the bottom of the diff inside. That way I don't get the fluid running back on itself and running out of the hole, giving me a false impression that it's full. Okay. I'm about to put the first bit in. I'll fill the funnel up and then I'll jump under there real quick and just make sure that she's flowing into the diff correctly. Okay. Okay, I've given her a bit of a wipe up, but yeah, she's just started to overflow at the 550 mil mark. So I'm gonna put one of the older washers on it. Again, next time I go to the Nissan guy, I'll tell him I want 2 of everything, not just the one. And I'll do her up in a second. It's very hard to turn this while holding a camera as well. Okay. So another bit of a wipe up, but yeah, now I'm going to tighten her right up.